It's time to break down what went right and what went wrong during this week's game. Severe Reaction is on the air with your host, Michael Severe, and the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction starts now. Powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone.
Two receivers each way. Sorsby leads in, takes the snap, backpedals the throw. Blitz picked up. Ayers went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red.
That's why you stay in the moment, KC. You don't lick your wounds. You don't pout. You come back. You make them snap it again. And Hartzog seals the deal.
You know, when I see my brothers going to war, we made a commitment that we're all doing it together. So they stepped up and made a play when we needed to. Yeah, our guys made a lot of plays. Our O-line blocked their tails off. Main goal was to get the ball in play and see what happens. And I think we did a fair job of that. You know, there's some third downs, some fourth downs that we went for that, you know, we wish we could have had back. And also some plays that we kind of hurt ourselves. But, you know, that's game one, and that's the growing pains. But I'm just glad we left here with a W.
Happy Sunday morning. Welcome to Severe Delayed Reaction. Several days after the game actually played, but Nebraska is 1-0 to start the 2025 season. Our producer is producer Joey, who may be the happiest person at NRG Media /1620 The Zone. Are you still riding the high, Joey?
Yes, I am.
I figured that.
That was an excellent day for me because
you think?
Well, earlier that day was the Micah Parsons trade.
That's what I was talking about.
Yes. And then I was a little worried about how this Big Red reaction was going to go.
Right.
Going into the final possession of the fourth quarter, but Nebraska was able to close things out.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good show, even though there were some technical glitches on the guys' end in the parking lot.
Honestly, you put a show in a parking lot. You put a show in a parking lot that had at one point, 75,000 people in a stadium, who many of them are on their phones or calling people or searching stuff or whatever, or streaming, I don't know, Big Red Overreaction. And you're going to have some issues. You just are. I don't care how good of a job Chris Prudhomme did. You just can't get it done. You can't, and that parking lot is enormous.
Yeah, it's a mess. I've only been through that one time. That was that 21 Kansas City Green Bay game where the Packers had their lone regular season loss. I just remember being sit in the same spot for like 90 minutes.
Yes.
Not even making any progress.
I went to the post game and hung around and was waiting for Dylan Raiola to come out, but he didn't come out for a while. Yeah. And I had gone with my wife and a couple of friends of ours, and so I knew they were already at the car. So I'm trying to get out of the stadium, and you're in the bowels of the stadium where they had the visitors press conference. Now, this room, I would say, just guessing, this room is about 24 by maybe a little bit more than that, 18 feet. Okay, so it's good. I think it's a good 24 feet this way, maybe. That room was a 8 by 10 cell where they had us doing the post game press conference. You have a giant podium up on top of a stage and zero room for cameras. Every camera was right on top of each other. There was no room for people to stand. Matt Rule's wife comes in, and she's usually at the post-game press conferences, and Dr. Eliza's trying to find a place for her to be able to stand just so she can watch it, because there's no room in that little room. Now, I have no idea how an NFL team.
I was just going to say, how can they do that for so long?
I don't know. And I mean, you got to figure an NFL team on the road, they probably bring anywhere from 15 to 20 media. I'm guessing. A good team, right? Maybe the Bengals, who are cheap at times. But like, I know for a fact the Saints travel about 12 people. That's not including the cameramen. I'm just talking about people who do podcasts and that are on the air. Yeah. And they're going to go to that press conference. And you know how many people Nebraska brings, right? Yeah. And so it was just packed in that room. So we get done with that. For whatever reason, Dylan Raiola doesn't come out for a while. And so I just leave. And I end up coming out the other side, because I go through the tunnel. I walk up to the area where the truck is parked, actually for Cincinnati, as they're loading their truck. trying to get out of there. I get out right where the buses are, and I'm directly on the opposite side of the stadium from where we parked. We parked in Lot A between the K and between Gaia. What is Gaia? Do you know what Gaia is?
No.
Okay.
I'm not
Gaia
familiar.
Field or Gaia Stadium, whatever it is. So we're parked between those. And, I'm walking around the stadium because I was going to try to walk over to where Big Red Overreaction was. That was kind of my goal. I was going to walk over and say hi to the guys. And I started walking, and I didn't feel like I was making any progress. So I bring up my wife on Life 360 to see where they are. And they were literally, if I could have walked through the stadium, or jumped over it, I would have been right there. So I started making the way around, and everybody that stopped me. And let me tell you, Nebraska fans, what they did on Thursday was incredible. And we'll go over that a little bit later. But everybody who stopped me had the exact same question. It was like someone sent out a question to ask. And the question was, what was your honest take on that game? Well, first of all, I'm going to always give you my honest take on the game. You don't have to ask the honest one. I'm always going to tell you. And I basically answered the same way to everybody. I said, they've got 3 weeks to get this thing in much better shape to take on Michigan.
Yep.
Now, Michigan didn't look incredible yesterday, but Michigan's going to run the ball. Cincinnati ran the ball. Nebraska struggled inside. They had some problems with that. So they got to get better. They got 3 weeks to go from where they were on the 28th to where they need to be when they take on Michigan. And that's what I said to everybody. And I was kind of surprised by the take both after the game, on the drive home, listening to Big Red Overreaction, listening to some other shows. I was kind of surprised a little bit about, and I don't want to use the word negativity, just it reminded me almost of the way listening to Cub fans for so many years. No matter what went right, it was always, well, the shoe's going to drop, it's not going to go great going forward. And so that was the take that I heard from everybody. Let me give you just a handful of the things that happened because of that win, right? So obviously, Nebraska won a one-score game. That is, I think, only the 11th in the last 39 times they played a one-score game that they won. And now it's back-to-back after winning the bowl game. It was the first time, as you know, for Nebraska to win against a Power 4 opponent opening the season since 2003. And then this one. This is the first time Nebraska went on the road or didn't play at home, won the game, and returned back to Memorial Stadium 1-0. Joey, how old are you?
I'm 26.
You're 26.
Yes.
That means you were born in 98. Is that right?
99.
99. The last time they did it was 1999.
Oh, boy.
When Joey was what month were you born in, Joey?
June 1st.
So Joey was barely 5 months old. Or 4 months old last time we did it. Think about that. 1999.
I feel old now.
The last time Nebraska did or is in the position they're in right now, coming home after playing a game away from home, coming home 1-0 to take on the Akron Zips. And Zips, not just a nickname. That's how many points they scored against Wyoming. And so they did all those things. So you would figure, because of all of that, being 1-0, period, that people would be a lot happier. But they're upset about a lot of things. And we will go over, as we will always do on this show, the good, the bad. We'll go over some ugly stuff if it's there. We'll look back at the keys of the game, right? Because the keys of the game that I put together, I'll look back and see how they did on those. Steve Sipple will join us at about 9 o'clock or so. We're excited to talk to Sip every time we have a chance to talk to him. I think most of the games this year we'll be able to have Sip. There may be one or two, depending on what time that UCLA game is and when they're coming back and that kind of thing. But most of the weeks we'll have Sip on around 9 o'clock. And then we'll also go over some of those numbers, the analytics, the ones that I always like to look at to determine where Nebraska is overall coming off of the game they played in the season overall, right? So we'll go over that as well. And we'll look ahead to the game, the next game, and it's against Akron. It'll be in Memorial Stadium, 6:30 game, 6:30 start against a team that really, really struggled. And we'll go over what they did and how they did it at the end of the show. But what Nebraska fans did was truly remarkable. And I think we kind of take the fans for granted You're like, oh, Nebraska's going to send 70,000 people to Kansas City for this game against Cincinnati. Yeah, and no surprises. But think about that. In your head, based off of the fan bases where games you visited on road trips or the ones in the Big Ten, how many teams, honestly, have a fan base? And I know it's only about 3 hours, 3.5 from Omaha, shorter from other places, longer from others. Because of the traffic and the bridge construction that Missouri is doing, it made it closer to a 4 and a 4.5 hour drive for most people, whether they're going or coming back. We actually went on Wednesday. I was not driving down there on Thursday. I told my wife, I said, and we got our hotel tickets way back in December. So we got a pretty good rate compared to what we saw later.
That's smart.
Yeah, we got it early. We got Wednesday and Thursday night. Matter of fact, we looked into changing it to maybe going on Thursday at one point because my wife's work. And the price had jumped up so much, it would have cost us more to cancel that one and it would cost more. So anyway, we went down there on Wednesday, which we avoided a lot of the traffic. Coming back, obviously, everybody hit the traffic. Whether you came back that night or even the next day, we didn't leave Kansas City till around 9:30, and it took us about 4.5 hours to get home.
So about 45 minutes longer than usual.
Yep. Normally it takes us to get to our house from the stadium. It takes us about 3:15, 3:30 tops. Obviously getting out of the stadium, I don't count that part because that's always hard to get out of there.
Yeah, it's always a train wreck.
Anyway, so we get all those people go down there and deal with that and go buy tickets, and some tickets were very expensive. Think about the amount of teams in college football, the amount of fan bases that could do that, that would do that. Not just send 20, 30, 40,000 like Nebraska has done before, whether it be to Notre Dame back in the day or what they did to Colorado or sending to Illinois or whatever else. Not just 35,000, not 40,000. There was legitimately 95% of the stadium that were Nebraska fans. We went Friday night to a soft opening of a new restaurant called Marrow, right? Everybody there was at the game. The chef was at the game. The owners of the restaurant had been at the game. The table to our right had been at the game. The table to our left, 2 tables over. Everybody went, right? Everybody went to that game. I just don't know if there are a lot of fan bases that could do that. Not college fan bases, I mean, if you gave the opportunity to a fan base like the Packers, maybe. Mm-hmm. Because they're Packer fans across the country, and there are Nebraska fans across the country. But still, to do that in the way they did it was truly remarkable, and not just the game. So we got there about 4:15. It took us a while to get in, by the way. You get into the gate, and instead of just normally turning into where the parking is, they made you go all the way around. And so we passed like 4 different gates that said red where we were parking before we finally got in. So we get in. We finally get over to the Blurred party. Yeah. Which was over at Kaufman. And there's 3,000 people inside of there. At a good $30 a ticket, they did okay. And you got people sitting in the main concourse, the tables. You've got people that are sitting just in the stands. The club seating, which is enclosed, you've got that place is full. Maybe more than 3,000 people. So you had about 3,000 people inside of a baseball stadium 3 hours before a football game was happening across the parking lot. That just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. They're eating their hot dogs. They're eating their pizza. They're eating their nachos. They're doing all that stuff. And it's just fascinating to think about that you can do something like that, that you can get that many people to go to a football game for a team that hasn't been good recently. Mm-hmm. We forget to add that sometimes. Nebraska has done this before and been let down. And they keep coming back. I did a little research project about 2 years ago called Return on Investment. And I looked at the cost of tickets, if you were a season ticket holder, if you had a seat license or donation, if you went to one road game every year, all those things. And, how much you're investing. And the money's not the only part. The investment is your soul at times, right, too. And yet people continue to pay in the investment, even though the return has been over the last 7 years a bowl game, or 8 years, a bowl game in New York City that many people couldn't go to because of the expense of going to New York around Christmas. But Nebraska fans continue to do it. It was absolutely an amazing, amazing performance by the Nebraska fan base. And out of everything else, give them credit. Give them a standing ovation. Matter of fact, even when we got back, our air condition was out. So I called the air condition guy, Abraham, Heating and Air, great people, been knowing them and working on our houses for years. The guy shows up, the son, Josh, and he had gone to the game and drove straight back because he had to work Friday morning and didn't get to sleep until I think he said 6 o'clock that night. So had been up that whole time. This is incredible to think about. And everybody went, man. It was incredible. Everybody went. Nebraska went over there, took the whole thing over, and this time won the game, which is the bottom line. The most important part of this whole thing is Nebraska winning the game and taking care of and getting the monkey off their back in these situations as well. Of course, a big part of the show is your phone calls. 402-951-1620 is the number. 402-951-1620. Brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Answer the phone on the first ring as always. And Nebraska Medicine, brought to you by Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers. I know Nebraska Medicine is looking for people to apply at all positions. Hospitals nowadays are really trying to hire. They're so overwhelmed with the amount of people going in there, the lack of nurses, the lack of services. They want to get people in there. So check them out at nebraskamed.com/careers. We'll come back. We'll get into the good, the bad. I'm going to start with the good because it's a win. So we're starting with the good. We'll go over that as well, go over some of the numbers from the game. Again, you can call the show 402-951-1620. I know pretty much everything has been said, being that the game ended late or early Friday morning. But we're going to go over some stuff that maybe you haven't had a chance to see or hear so far. We'll do that when we come back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
4th and 2, Cincinnati 3. Right hash. Raiola shotgun set, Johnson saddled left, 2 receivers left. 2 tight ends. Raiola takes the snap. Play fake. Zings one back up to the end zone. And that is caught for the touchdown. Back line of the end zone. He fired it over the middle, and Nebraska has 6.
Easy breezy.
Dean Key over the middle made the catch on the slant.
It's just the look we have in each other's eyes. We have tremendous trust in each other, and I told Coach that I was gonna make it happen. And with all guys, 11 guys executing their job, we scored a touchdown. And I mean, Dane shook the dude pretty bad the first time, and Holt let me know in the ear, you got it. So we ran the same play, and we hit it for a touchdown.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome back. Severe reaction here on 1620 The Zone. And on those 2 plays, who had a sneaky good game? Now, they didn't get targeted, but check out Heinrich Harburg's blocking in that game. He had about 6 or 7 different opportunities where it was him on a defensive end or sometimes it was a linebacker, stand-up linebacker. He did very well. I don't know what his run block grade was. I need to go back and look at PFF, but it was good. Even on that play, the play before, when they just handed it off, he had a decent block. And then on that play with the quick look in, he had a block there. So out of all the players on the team that I want to see get more looks, it's Harburg. I think Harburg in the middle of the field. I think Harburg having a chance to be able to make some plays. I think and the different things he can do. Obviously he lined up on 4th and short or 3rd and short to get the first down. The tush push, that was great. But there's a lot more than that. You put him in motion. You can maybe double pass stuff with him. And so I would like to see, and it wasn't really until the second half where he started playing a lot more. They went to 2 tight ends in the second half, and you saw him and Lindenmeyer on the field together. So I like that. We start off with the good, and I'm going to start off with something that people criticize a lot, the defense. I'm starting off with the defense because when you look overall on how the defense played, I know it wasn't what people wanted, but they held Cincinnati to 17 points. They held a quarterback who averaged almost 240 yards passing a game last year. Talking about a quarterback that's thrown for 400 yards in a game before. They held him to 69 yards. Good number, not good for passing. They held them to 271 total yards of offense. Big plays in terms of the NCAA are 10 yards plus for runs, 15 yards plus for passes. They held them to 6 big plays for 88 yards. Nebraska had 8 of them, by the way, for 133. 3 of 10, and 2 of those were at the end of the game. So 3 of 10 on 3rd down. No matter what you think about what this defense did, and they had some busts, and mainly it was the 4th quarter against Sorsby. I think he ended up having, of his 96 yards rushing, I think 58 of them were in the 4th quarter. But doing what they did, red zone defense, right? Forced a field goal. Very successful drive early on. Cincinnati forced a field goal. Now, once Sorsby started running and the interior of that defense struggled, whether they went wide or didn't have a spy on him or the spy didn't go the right way, whatever, he took advantage of it, yes. But they held Cincinnati in their own territory, in Cincinnati's territory, on 6 of 9 drives. That is a successful day. When they only cross your 50, really 3 times, because you don't, so there's 10 total drives, but you don't count the drives that are garbage time. And so the end of the half drive after Nebraska had scored, or the end of the game after the interception that Nebraska had, you don't count those drives. So 6 out of 9 held them that way. In the first 2 drives, Cincinnati had success running the ball, 39 yards. In the second quarter, Nebraska turned up the defense and only 22 yards in that second quarter. As I mentioned, held Cincinnati inside their own territory, 6 of 9 drives, forced 4 punts and 2 turnovers, basically 4 3-and-outs. You had 3 3-and-outs and a 4-and-out. And just 25 yards after the catch, out of that 69 were after the catch, Nebraska had 108 after the catch. It wasn't a poor defensive performance. They were busts. And I said this to John and Josh a few times when I've been on Mondays. The defense is going to take a while to come together. It just is. You've got so many new bodies. They're going to actually have to figure out who they can count on. Practice is one thing. When the bullets are flying for real, you got to figure out who you can count on. Who's that inside linebackers can take the most snaps? How much do you play Winery? How much is Van Poppel in there opposed to having Judy in there? You got to figure that out. And they're going to figure that out against Akron and Houston Christian. And hopefully by the time Michigan comes here for that 2:30 matchup, they'll know who they can count on. I think they have a good idea with the secondary, right? Andrew Marshall looked good for the most part, made a really nice open field tackle kind of late in the game. Sierra Wright was in and out, but I thought that they did some good things on the other corner spot. I think the secondary, I worry still about Hartzog put the game away with the interception. I know, but he also gave up the catch on 4th down on that same drive and then had the hold. He also was beat in the end zone for which should have been another touchdown, but it was kind of a late throw and it hit the receiver in the chest. I think it was Allen in the chest, and he didn't catch it. Good job for Hartzog to catch up and try to make a play, but he got beat on that one. I like the guy as a player. I just don't know if he's the long-term answer back there. I just don't. And so that's the situation, with that defense overall. It's going to take a while to get it right. Many times in college football and all levels of football, defense is ahead of the offense. But rarely does a defense, one, obviously change the defensive coordinator, lost a number of players that were major contributors. You had a guy last night who's a pretty good player for LSU in there late in the game trying to help LSU beat Clemson, who was on your defensive line last year, right? James Williams, who was coming off the edge for Florida State late in the game trying to make plays. A lot of guys you lost. Obviously, Nash and Ty in the NFL. So it's going to take a while. It is. And I know people are disappointed in the way they played in certain points of the game, but the defense is going to take a while. It just is. Be ready for Michigan. Michigan's not. Bryce Underwood is a good quarterback. He's still a freshman. He still makes freshman mistakes. He is going to take off a lot, just like Sorsby did. You've got to get that fixed. Whether it's a spy, more of a mush rush, make him make the throws, those sort of things, that's got to happen. Second good thing in our list of good, bad, and ugly, Emmett Johnson, as a workhorse, went out there and performed, man. 4.2 yards a touch, 25 carries, 32 total touches for 135 yards. Didn't really have any huge plays, had a couple, big plays in terms of 10-yard runs or 10 yards plus, but didn't really have that breakout run. And then on the other hand, you see Dowdell with his long run on Saturday, and you're like, but look, man, it was against a lesser opponent than Nebraska was playing. But still, Emmett went out there, took every single carry he had to take. You'd love to see those other running backs get involved, and I think they will. The excuse, and I shouldn't say excuse, the reason why Matt Rule said that you didn't see the younger running backs was because, the pace and the game was close. And if Nebraska, after the half, finishes that middle 8 dominant by scoring a touchdown and going up 17, it's obviously a different game. You're going to see more of Mosey. You're going to see more of Nelson if that happens, I think. But because it didn't happen, they fail on the 4th down. Cincinnati goes down and scores. It changes the pace of the game. It changes the game overall, so you didn't see those guys. But obviously the other running backs, and maybe even it's Quentin Ives that's involved as well. But it's got to be some other guys. It can't just be him. But props to give him a helmet sticker. If you gave him a stickers out, give it to Emmett Johnson. The third one is transfer wide receivers against a decent Cincinnati defense, who I think is going to be pretty good this year in the Big 12. And Isaiah Hunter, Dan Key went out there and made the plays he needed to make. 12 combined catches, 116 yards, and more importantly, 2 touchdowns. And I know last year against UTEP, the 2 transfer receivers looked really good, but that was UTEP. This is Cincinnati, so it's a little bit different there. And then throw Lindenmeyer in there too, because he's obviously not a transfer, but he's remade his body. He has done things to make himself a better receiver. He carried that defender down to the 1, almost got in, made a couple of catches near the sideline where he broke a tackle and got extra yards, run after the catch with those. So contributed as well. But to see the 2 guys who came in here as transfers, and you never know, right? You never know. Sometimes you bring a transfer in and you just don't get it. They don't get it, or you don't get it. Something doesn't work. But that's how it worked. JB said we could have used Dowdell. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. But he wanted a ton of money, and you have to figure out what your investment is. How much money are you willing to spend at one position? And when you look back at it, they had to give Emmett Johnson more money. Remember, Emmett initially went into the transfer portal. So you have to figure out what you're going to do financially, and they didn't think so. By the way, Dowdell wanted to stay here. Everybody I've talked to said he wanted to stay here, but it came down to a money situation where he wanted a certain amount and wasn't going to get it. JP also asked if Carter Nelson playing. No, he played. He was in. He's legit. He's the third tight end. He just is. You've got two guys who are now upperclassmen, another guy who played a handful of games last year, had to have offseason surgery, is still coming back, still developing into an 11-man player. Remember, you played 8-man. So that's what I told John and Josh, man. Just wait. Let me see what Carter Nelson looks like next year. Let me see what he looks like next year. I think he'll look pretty good next year. I think he's still a little ways away. He's got to be able to get off of tight coverage when he's coming off the line of scrimmage, when he's displaced. He's got to be able to do that. He's got to be able to find those holes in the defense, which he's going to develop into. He's going to get better at doing that. I know he will. So you just got to give him a little bit of time. I don't care what his ranking was or how many stars he had. Just give him a little time. It's a little bit of time to develop into what he can be as a tight end. And I think he's going to be pretty good. Personally, I think so. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get into some of the bad. Of course, show brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebrascamed.com/careers. When we come back, we'll go over some of the struggles that Nebraska had in the opening game of the season. When we come back here on Severe Reaction.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
15 yards on the misdirection. First and goal from the 7. Pistol set Sorsby. Gavin Grover, the tight end, motions into the backfield. Snap, turn left on a keep from Sorsby. Swings the near left edge. Dives headlong to the pylon. He's in. Touchdown Bearcats. A sweeping run to the left. Sorsby got outside the numbers, dove headlong, and the Bearcats right back in it with 6:53 to go in the third quarter. It's at the 1 right hash. 2 wide left, 1 to the right. Single back Pryor. Pistol snap. Sorsby turn left. He keeps, tucks and runs, powers over the center. Sorsby's in for a Cincinnati touchdown, and they're right back in it. What a response to silence the crowd here in KC with 7:15 to play. It's now 20-16. Nebraska. What a drive for the Bearcats.
Welcome back to Severe Reaction, brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally. Answer the phone on the first ring. And Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers. Careers. I can't quite put my finger on it, but Kyle Crooks, the new play-by-play guy, sounds like someone. And I'm going to eventually remember who it is, but it's a national voice that I've heard before, but I just can't put my finger on it. Every time I hear him, I'm thinking, I know that voice. Matter of fact, a couple times when I heard highlights, I thought it was a national highlight. I'm still not quite used to Kyle's voice, even though I listened to a lot of the game as I watched the game. It's something. I can't put my fingers on it. He did a good job. They did a very good job. First time together, one of the hardest things to do is to build chemistry. And I know there were some people who were critical about the broadcast for whatever reason. Building chemistry doesn't take one game, doesn't take 6 games.
No,
it takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes a while. It took over a year and a half for Kevin and I to build chemistry together. And we were working 5 days a week, at that time, at a minimum 15 hours, a week together. These are guys who are working basically 4 hours a week together, if that much. So just give them a second. All right, the bad. The first thing is, and this is something I was critical all last year about, is Nebraska can't allow as much havoc as they allow. I like to go over Havoc Plus. Let me tell you what Havoc Plus is, okay? So that is sacks, that's hurries, that's PBUs, passes batted down, or however you want to say it. Interceptions, forced fumbles. They don't necessarily have to recover the fumble, but forcing a fumble, that all goes into there. So when you take sacks, hurries, TFLs, PBUs, interceptions, forced fumbles, and you add that number together, you would hope that your team would allow under double figures. That should be your goal. Under 10. You don't want to go over 10. Cincinnati ended up with 15. 15 was that number. 3 sacks, another 3 hurries, 6 total TFLs. You can't end up with a number like 15. That's what costs you games. Luckily, the interception wasn't an interception. The late throw back over to Emmett Johnson ended up not being an interception. Luckily, the fumble on the backside sack, the ball doesn't get picked up by the defensive back, rolls back into the hands of Dylan Raiola. He saves it. That was the biggest play of the game, I think. There were several plays, but that was as close to the biggest play of the game as there was. So those are situations where in the past, it's gone the other way for Nebraska, right? And they've lost games. But havoc allowed was a problem last year. Nebraska, 2 years ago, Nebraska was near the bottom of the country in havoc allowed. Last year, they still were in the 90s for havoc allowed. And I'm sure by the end of this week, when everything is done with all the games that are played, 2 today and 1 tomorrow, they're going to be down there again. You just can't do that. You cannot give up. You cannot allow that. And part of it is, a rotation at your left tackle spot. There's an argument you can make that left tackle is either the second or third most important position on the field, and you're trying to equally play 3 guys. I thought personally Gunnar Gatula played the best. I rewatched the game again this morning. I think out of the left tackles, he played the best overall. So run blocking and pass blocking. Pritchard, who I thought did some good things in his run blocking, still struggles man-to-man with bull rush. He's too big. It's his balance. It's too big to get off balance on a bull rush. Plant your feet, bend your knees, get in there. The guy did late in the game. I think it was the last drive for Nebraska had, and maybe it was the drive before that. The guy single-armed him on his shoulder and got that shoulder and just completely turned him and went around him or inside of him. It can't happen. Again, I thought Pritchard did okay run blocking. I thought he struggled pass blocking. And then Turner Corcoran, who was out there, who I just don't think he can play tackle. I just don't. I mean, how many times can you let somebody just dip around you, which happened a few times? And how many times can you not be athletic enough? And I know he's had a lot of injuries, but to be able to physically move and get where you need to get. I don't understand the fascination with continuing to try to play him at tackle. I just don't get it. And right now, the interior is solid. They don't need him. Thought Spindler played pretty well. Evans had some moments against a very good defensive tackle where he got pushed back, but didn't play horribly. I worry that they're going to keep messing around with this left tackle instead of finding one guy and letting him go. Gunnar Gatula is the guy right now. He is. He's the guy. He's the guy that needs to be out there. Out of everybody else, he's the guy. Is he the best left tackle in the Big Ten? No. But out of the other guys, I think he's much better. So that's what I would do. That's one of the reasons why that Havoc number was where it was because of the way that left tackle spot was at times. The other bad, before we do that, we'll get to the phones. 402-951-1620 if you want to join severe delayed reaction at some point. Is this the real Don?
What's up, bro?
What's up, Don Juan? How you doing, man?
I'm chilling, man. How you doing, El?
I'm doing well. You coming back from church?
Yes, sir. And on the way back. But listen.
Yeah.
I was talking to Big Kev, right?
Uh-huh.
He told me, bro, that when you playing the tackle, the defensive end that you're playing, his measurables or whatever you want to call it when they do the combine, but all those things kind of match up with a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So you almost have to have a guy that can, be able to handle that athleticism,
right?
With the combination with the explosiveness. So they got to get somebody who can do that, bro.
You have to be extremely athletic, but at the same time, it's fundamentals. Tackle is fundamentals. If you can be a halfway good athlete and have great fundamentals and be a great tackle. So it's a big part of fundamentals.
Oh, well, and there's no doubt, bro, that there's a field IQ that comes into play.
Oh, yeah.
And probably more important than everything else. But at the same time, hey, I thought Florida State looked pretty good on defense, bro.
Tony White had the first drive. It's funny when sometimes you go back and you look on Twitter or whatever. The first drive, Florida State fans were freaking out because Alabama was just running it down their throat. After that first drive, man, Tony White got it fixed. They played much better the rest of the game. They looked dangerous.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say, man, that I was proud that Texas lost, but Ohio won. So,
Yeah, I'm not the guy who cheers for the Big Ten. I'm just not that guy. I've never been. I'm not going to change. As a kid, I hated the Big Ten. I'm not changing. I just don't like the Big Ten.
So which one are you more impressed with, Louisiana State or Penn State?
Well, LSU obviously playing Clemson is a tougher opponent than what. But I thought Penn State came out and did what they're supposed to do. I tell you right now, that guy who's the head coach of Penn State, he knows the line. He was trying to get the cover. He was trying for it. I'm not saying he got no money on it, but he knows the line. He was trying to go for that cover. He was doing his best.
People gonna remind him probably so, huh?
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey man, so did your prediction for the Huskers change any off of what you said?
No, I still like 9-3. I all along I thought it was going to take a little while. I thought this was going to be a 3 or 4 point game, and it was. I think you beat up on the next two opponents, and you're playing your best ball. Hopefully, when Michigan gets here, I still think they can go 9-3. I haven't changed.
Okay, man. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for sharing the line with me, bro.
No problem, Don.
Hey, you back up in here, man. Football is back, baby.
No doubt, baby.
Hey, one last question I want to ask you. Bud and Canelo, what you got, bro?
I got Bud, man. I'm waiting until an hour before the fight when all that money comes in on Canelo and I can get Bud at some good plus money. That's when I'm making my bet.
I appreciate you, bro. Shout out to you, Jerry.
All right. Later, Don. Take it easy, man. Yeah, that's coming up, man. That's quick. Time is flying already.
Yeah, we're already heading to September tomorrow.
I know, man.
Crazy.
Flying along. NFL next week. Second bad. fourth quarter defense. There were a lot of people that said all week long that the strength of Nebraska is going to be their depth, and they're going to wear down Cincinnati. I heard that several times. And you never know, because they're young, and their depth's young. Cincinnati had 9 rushes for 92 yards in the fourth quarter. Another 45 yards passing. That's right. He had like 26 yards passing going into the fourth quarter. He had 45 along with the 92 yards. They converted 2 of 3 third downs. They only converted one other one the rest of the game. Total yards in the fourth quarter, 128 to 74. And in the INT, it saves it, it saves the poor play in the fourth quarter. But, dude, Cincinnati, 41 seconds, I think, is how much was left. They run Sorsby 2 more times, and they're in field goal range. Do you feel good about Nebraska going into overtime? Ever?
No, never.
How old were you in 2014?
I was about 15 years old.
The last time Nebraska scored in overtime.
Crazy.
Yeah. Hell, it's the last time they got a first down in overtime. So,
and Bo Pelini was the head coach in that game.
Last game of his career. That is correct. He put the whammy on them. But that interception saved him, but fourth quarter defense. And then the last thing is, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I know people were critical about Nebraska not going deep, and I understand what Cincinnati was doing and forcing Nebraska to do. I understand that. 42 throws. Normally, you're going to be up over 300 yards and everything else. But, I know what they were doing. A lot of short passes. I said it all week. Take a profit. Take a profit. You're not going to go broke taking a profit. 5.8 yards per attempt for Raiola. That is really low. So it's so low that when I went to bed last night, now all the games haven't been played, only one team that had fewer than 5.8 yards an attempt had won the game. Only one other one besides Nebraska had won it. Now, a couple more at the end of the day, so I think it's like 3 or 4, but still, that's not going to get it done. 7.4 yards of completion, not going to get it done. And this isn't about throwing deep. This is about making explosive plays. Now, the run by Ja'Cory Barney, that's a pass. It was a pitch forward, right? The guy hit him on his outside thigh. He didn't catch his ankle. He didn't get the lower leg. He hit him on the outside thigh, and Barney goes down. He's got to run through that. That's an explosive play that's right there for you. It has to be made. He didn't make it. Now, imagine what that play does to the yards per completion, yards per attempt. You need one of those. They had one play of 20 yards or more. That's just not good enough to get it done. And it doesn't have to necessarily be passes over 20 yards. You can make a pass, guy breaks a tackle, and makes plays. If you watched the end of the LSU game, they didn't have enough time against the Clemson front to really throw the ball down the field. They were throwing some really creative screens and some delays from the inside where they were running stuff to one side off a fake and throwing back to the other. And what were the wide receivers doing? They were making guys miss. Even on that 3rd and 14, which you didn't think they were going to get the first down. And I think it was Barry Brown made a heck of a guy. Hit a guy miss, spin move, got the first down.
Yeah, he made 3 guys miss on a simple check down play.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They played zone on that.
Yeah, and then on that check down play, what they did was, that's an eye movement thing, right? You had your quarterback get everybody going one direction and came back. And then it was up to a guy who is an incredible return man. I think Barry Brown has 5 total kickoff returns in his career. So that's what he does. But anyway, as much as it's not throwing the ball down the field, it's getting explosives. Need more explosives, have to have it. It's critical. And when you get the opportunity to do it, like you had the opportunity for Ja'Cory Barney, he's got to take advantage of that. Just have to. When we come back, this will be the last break of the hour, right?
We got one more break in the hour.
Okay, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll look at points per play, offense, defense. I talked about this last year. There are certain rankings you need to be if you're going to contend. We'll go over that a little bit. We'll look at some of your messages over on the YouTube side and take your phone calls, 402-951-1620. Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally and Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers here on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
Two receivers right, Cincinnati 43. A 4th and 2. Raiola shotgun set.
You can play catch out here.
Harper motion right to left, takes the shotgun snap, looks right, comes back left, swings it left, almost intercepted, and perhaps taken back for a pick six by Logan Wilson had he hung on. Instead, it's a turnover on downs. Man, what a break.
Yeah, I really like Dane Key, like right now. Just got to bang it. He was open. He tries to come backside. When you're in quick game and you pump fake, you're probably in trouble.
3-2 shell. It's the Iowa State defense. Like, just keep everything in front of you, try to frustrate you, make you execute play after play after play after play. At halftime, we had 19 minutes and 32 seconds of time of possession. They had 10. So, I mean, it's kind of the way we wanted the game to go. To their credit, they came out and they answered us. We moved the ball down to start the second half. 4th and 2, we decided we were going to go for those. I went for it. They went down and answered with a score and turned it into a game, So we have to figure out, we had a lot of third downs, but probably some of those, third and fourth downs, like if we get maybe one more back, might have been a little bit better off.
Welcome back to Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. If there was one thing, if I could hand the genie bottle to Dylan Raiola and he could rub the bottle and genie comes out and he gets one wish, it would be better vision across the middle of the field. When he misses something quick, it's usually right across the middle of the field. Now, maybe he's seeing it and he's not confident enough to make the throw, but out of all the times that he's missed, even going back to last year, remember when he missed Fedoni on that one and he threw it underneath instead and he gets picked? Dane Key was open right away on that play. That was an easy throw. And by the way, one step later, if he could have held it, Lindenmeyer comes wide open too. But had to get rid of it, makes the throw backside. And once he'd already made that pump fake, it was pretty much a dead play. But luckily, Emmett was able to get his hand in there, and it wasn't a pick six. But that's what I would wish for him, is that whatever his vision issues are, because he's tall, it's not like the offensive linemen are in his way. That's not the problem. Maybe it is a confidence thing. Maybe he's worried about letting it go in the middle of the field at times because that's the place where the ball gets tipped up in the air and you get interceptions. But that was a simple play. That was snap, catch, release, Dane Key, first down. That's what that was. Wide open. But For whatever reason, he has struggled with that in the past. I did not mention Prohaska when I was talking about the defensive line. And if you want to talk about a feel-good story, Teddy Prohaska is that. All of the injuries, everything he's had to deal with. And, I mean, I thought I saw a few plays where he had some struggles. But for the most part, he played well. For a guy who I think was kind of an afterthought coming back into the season this year. We were talking about Tyler Kanak, and we were talking about Gunnar Gatula, obviously Pritchard, but we were talking a lot about Prohaska until all of a sudden that first practice we went to, and he was starting at right tackle. And he's kind of solidified that, and that's what he is. And it's an awesome story because, man, that guy has been through there is nothing like rehab. You're away from your team. You're doing these little things every day to get better. I have 2 ACLs and a knee replacement. I'm telling you, it's just lonely, especially when you're used to being on a team, in a locker room, in a weight room with a bunch of other people. You're there by yourself, and you're just grinding to get better. And he's done it multiple times. So congratulations to Teddy Prohaska getting himself back where he is, that he could play pretty well. I also didn't mention Lutovsky, who had a very good game. I don't know. I got to pull up the PFF scores, but I thought Lutovsky played very well. But you got to figure out the left tackle spot. It's pretty simple. You gotta. JB says they're bad. They lined up with a giant gap in the middle of the D line and stunted off it. They ran directly into it for big gains. Yet the goal. So we talk a lot about the defensive line, right? Remember this: it's a 3-3-5. There's 3 other guys that have to do their job in the run game. If the 3 guys up front take up 4 guys, which is legitimate, now it's, if you've got a fullback, which you don't have often, you got a tight end, now you got 3 guys on 2, and they've got to be able to make a play. I thought Watson Trent struggled. The first time I saw him on the field, I thought he was a little small and a little slow. That's just the first thing I saw about him. And then when I rewatched the game, I thought I saw that again. He's going to get big guys on him in the Big Ten. A couple times the center got on him one time. He's got to avoid that. He's got to be able to make plays in the middle of the field, and he didn't. I thought Jevin Wright had moments where he played really well, other times where he overran some plays, where he didn't necessarily make the tackle. Those guys in the middle of the field, obviously V9, Vincent Shavers had one of the plays of the game with putting his helmet right on the ball, forcing that fumble that Winery picked up. But they've got to get better play in there. That's what's got to happen. Those guys have to make plays. If it's way down at the end with Dawson Merritt, I don't care. Those guys have to be able to get off blocks or avoid blocks and be able to make plays in the middle of the field. And that's what we didn't see. Again, talk about the defensive line all you want. There's other guys behind him that need to make plays. Even Singleton, who had some nice plays early on, twice on runs that were pretty good runs for Cincinnati, he just got juked out of his shoes. Now, he's a big, long guy, and that's going to happen to him against a shifty back, but he's got to be able to, come to a tackling position and make the play. You just have to. You can't let that happen. You can't let guys, when you have a chance to get a stop tackle and they gain 6, 7, 8, 9 yards, that's a failure. That's a huge failure, and that happened quite a bit. We'll take our last break of the hour. When we come back on the other side, Stephen M. Sipple will join us. We'll chat with Sip about what he thought about the game. He's already written 2 columns since then. He wrote one late Thursday night, early Friday morning, and wrote another just earlier this morning. We'll chat with Sip about his thoughts on the game and the reaction that Nebraska fans are having as well. We come back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
10 on the play clock. Raiola sends a man in motion right to left. That's Shakori Barney. Raiola takes a snap, fade route, back run of the end zone. 50-50 ball. Was it caught? Touchdown, Huskers. Fade route, back right of the end zone. Going up high to make the catch, and Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown. The biggest thing is here. Does he have possession coming down to the ground?
I think the toe's down before the game.
After further review, the ruling of a touchdown is upheld.
Easy breezy, lemon squeezy.
I think we thought maybe we'd play the other guys a little bit more, but we just had a lot of tempo plays, right? We had a lot of plays that we just stayed no huddle and just try to keep them from putting their pass rush package out there. So, I thought he ran really hard. I don't know how many yards he finished with. They didn't give me, I don't have stats. Okay, 108. Yeah, so, I thought he did what he's supposed to do. 108, caught the ball in the backfield, made the first guy miss, picked up blitzes. So, but yeah, Mosey and Makai, they'll continue to come along.
Hour number 2 of severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. 402-951-1620, brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers. We're now joined by a career columnist, longtime follower and coverer of Nebraska football. He is the columnist for On 3, Nebraska Online, and podcaster as well. Stephen M. Sipple joining us here on 1620 The Zone. Good morning, Sip.
Mike, are we going to do this again this year?
I think so. As long as you're willing, I'm willing.
Oh, God, I'm willing. I really appreciate it. It was good seeing you in Kansas City for an interesting night.
It was a very interesting night. Let me tell you what Nebraska did, in case you missed it, on Thursday night / Friday morning. Okay, they won their 11th win in 36 opportunities in a one-score game. They beat their first Power 4 team to open a season since 2003, and they won a road game, and they're returning back to Memorial Stadium with up 1-0 for the first time since 1999. Why aren't people happier, Sip?
Well, there's some obvious reasons, and I think it starts with, Michael, what we've talked about so much, and we've talked about it a lot, but it's still bothering people, and we saw it. Okay, we saw it. And maybe that's the crux of the issue. We've talked about it, and now we saw it. That is, they look vulnerable up front. They do. It wasn't terrible, but I'll tell you what. 6.7 yards a carry by Cincinnati gets one's attention, right? I mean, Cincinnati had 271 yards. Okay, that's excellent. I mean, that's good defense.
Yep.
You hold a team to 271, that's good. But they ran for 202, and it was legit. They some of that was the quarterback getting loose, but that's part of the game in college football. Look at those teams yesterday. Look at Castellano. Look at Gunnar Stockton.
Yep.
Look at that. You got to be able to handle that part. And anyway, a lot of it's that. And then the other part, Michael, we've talked about it a lot. We wondered about the running back group. And then lo and behold, you see them really just use one guy. And Emmett was good. He's good. He's a good running back, but he's not great. So that's kind of where you're at. You got to fight through that. And there's some other things that cropped up, but as you mentioned, there's a lot of good to that game too.
There are. I mean, it was a lot. There was, and he didn't do it a lot yesterday, but I'm sure in 3 weeks when Bryce Underwood comes in here, it's another quarterback that's going to be trying to do the same thing, getting out of the pocket and taking the yards that are there. But Sip, the thing I was excited about, because I've said all along, the defense is going to take a while to come together because Nebraska's coaches need to figure out who they're going to play. What I was a little disappointed was the interior of that linebacker core. I thought Watson Trent really struggled. There was some mistakes made by other guys. I don't know who are the two guys in there that they really can count on to play really well. Are there two guys you'd pick?
That's kind of a hidden conversation. You're not hearing that very much. Gavin Wright going to be in that discussion for sure. And I thought that it would be Wright Shavers, at the beginning of August when they opened the preseason camp. And Shavers doesn't get a black shirt. Some of that, I think, is he was hurt.
Yeah,
he had a hamstring during camp. But yeah, on that first depth chart, Marquise Watson Trent is listed ahead of him. I told Sean Callahan, my cohort, that kind of I didn't quite understand it, but I don't see camp either.
Right.
I get where you're coming from because you're talking about kind of a limited group of guys: Marquise Watson Trent, Vincent Shavers, Gavin Wright. Unless you can get Bauer going, Jacob Bauer
or Merritt.
Yeah, you have Merritt. Maybe there's an answer there as the season goes on. But yeah, I haven't watched. I'd have to kind of lock in a little harder on Marquise Watson Trent. You felt that he struggled.
Yeah, he just doesn't look quick. He's small already. That's obvious, but he doesn't look very quick. At times where he wrong stepped it for whatever reason, he did not come back and make a play. He wasn't Levante David out there. Let me just say.
Yeah, he can't wrong step at his size, and if he's not fast, so yeah, that's something that's very astute on your part. You hope but I'm telling you, I think Wright and Shavers should be answers there, and maybe Marquise Watson Trent just had first game jitters.
Yeah, certainly. Stephen M. Sipple joining us from Husker Online. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but give me the position that you were happiest about, the position that you were most concerned about.
Happiest. I would just say receiver positions, including tight end.
Right.
Key and Hunter are as advertised. Lyndon Meyer looks like a guy who's emerging as a real good player now. I mean, it's Luke Lindenmeyer, as I wrote today, is a shining testament to player development.
Yeah.
And he looks like their best tight end. I mean, we all knew he's the best all around tight end, but that this discussion was always, he's going to be their best. When you say all around, usually people are thinking, blocker, does everything right. Well, now he looks like a guy that I caught 5 passes in that game.
Yep.
Have 47 yards. He looked good catching the ball. He looked good catching the ball last year. It just didn't get many opportunities. And then at receiver, those two guys are as advertised. Ja'Cory Barney is going to be there for you. Now let's see Quinn Clark, what that looks like.
Mills.
And then one other thing, it's tight end. I think Carter Nelson only played 5 snaps. So I don't know, maybe there's much more left to get from him.
Yeah, and I thought Harburg blocked really well, just didn't get it. Matter of fact, I think he was one of the best blockers on the edge they had on Thursday night, but obviously didn't get targets. We talk a lot about how young the team is. I know you mentioned that in the column because Coach talked about it, but 34 sophomore or younger players on that depth chart, that's a lot. But do you ever think that because you're getting rid of a lot of the guys who've been through a lot of bad losses, that they're having the fresh faces who aren't burdened with that bad loss, whatever, is not a bad thing? It's a good thing. Maybe that's what helps them be able to get over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, it balances the conversation for sure. But I would say this: I always want to be old in this league, or pretty old, especially mainly up front, and they are on offense. It's a veteran offensive line for the most part,
sure.
But not on defense, and that's the concern. I mean, Keona Davis is just a sophomore. Van Poppel's a sophomore. Winery's a redshirt freshman. You played Petchak a little bit as a true freshman. You got Lefitu in there's a sophomore. Hufkin is a redshirt freshman. You're having to lean on a lot of youth at a place where I don't want youth. I want older dudes in there. And, you got a couple. You'll have Elijah Judy.
Yeah, but he had the worst game out of everybody, your oldest player.
Yeah, he ain't grade well at all.
Yeah,
got to get a lot out of Lenhart, but Lenhart's an interesting study to me. He's 270.
Yeah,
he's not. I always was telling Sean, you know how it is, Michael. When you're over there in June, watching the high school camps, you see the current players, and I remarked to Sean a couple times, man, these linemen are very athletic looking, good looking athletes, but they're not big.
Yeah,
you see linemen, and you just got to kind of see how that goes, and that's what we're going to be watching for the next 12 games or whatever it is,
Yeah, no doubt about that. My big concern, one of my biggest concerns, and this has been for a couple of years, I talk a lot about havoc allowed, right? You're giving up, and havoc plus. So it's hurries, it's PBUs, it's sacks, it's tackle for loss, it's all that stuff. And again, that number added up to 15 for Cincinnati. You don't want to see that. And Nebraska's been bad the last 2 years. Are you concerned about, they forced a couple of fumbles, not necessarily lost fumbles. They probably should have had a pick six. Does that concern you? Well, how Nebraska handles other teams that are going to be much better defensively than Cincinnati in terms of havoc allowed?
Yeah, when you talk about Dylan, I'm not overly. I thought he showed a maturity that you would expect in his second year. He did almost throw a pick six, but almost.
Sure.
Almost doesn't count.
Nope.
It doesn't count.
It does now in analytics because it's a turnover-worthy play. So everything gets counted now.
That's true, but I watched a lot of football yesterday.
Yeah.
I watched the alleged great quarterbacks of this season, like Klubnik,
right,
throw questionable balls.
Right.
You saw Ty Simpson of Alabama do it. I don't, Michael, what I'm not trying to be an apologist for Dylan, but I don't think you can just expect perfection every time he goes out there, right? And he's going to throw some bad balls because most quarterbacks do, including in the NFL. So no, okay. Yeah, there's some concerning things on offense, but the thing I always say is Dylan's about seventh on that list of concerns for me. He's the most prepared guy out there. He's he commands the game really well. He's going to make a few mistakes. Also, keep in mind, I had a Big 12 coach tell me 2 days ago that Cincinnati team's better than you think.
Yeah.
So that's something to watch too.
Yeah. No, I think they have obviously up the middle. They're very strong. And again, I think people think that I am too hard on Dylan. The opposite way of what you were saying is that he just, I'm 56. I know you're 58, correct?
Right.
And these young people, bruh, I can't. He's so casual at times. So casual in what he does. And I know that's what Mahomes does and some other, but man, I need more urgency. I need I need somebody to go out there, and every time they're doing something, it looks like they're playing as hard as they possibly can. It's just in my brain, As a kid, I watched Roger Staubach. That's what I want. And it's still hard for me sometimes when I watch Dylan and watch him. I just want to see something. I just want to see more urgency.
Well, I noticed it in Hawaii when I saw him in that Polynesian Bowl. I had that same thought even back then. He does tend to make things look easy because he's so talented, and I think some of it's that. But I've remarked on that since the Polynesian Bowl. I would like to see him. It's kind of a weird conversation because I'd almost like to see him look flustered. I'd like to see him look kind of frazzled, and you don't very often. He's such a cool customer, but that could come with maturity a little bit. The look you're looking for, urgency. Urgency is a better way to put it than frazzled.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally understand what you're saying. I think you have to take into account that he's really talented, and he does tend to make things look easy that aren't easy for other guys. So I think some of it's that. But Dylan he was 33 or 42 for 243,
yep.
2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and people are bitching about it. That's all right.
Yeah,
that kind of goes with the it goes with the territory.
I think only 3 teams that had a lower pass per or yards per attempt won so far this 4-day weekend. So 5.8 yards an attempt. It's, you're taking what you can get, but the concern is the lack of explosiveness at times. And you've got Ja'Cory Barney. Did you see how he went down that one shovel forward pass where he got hit on the thigh? I mean, you got to run through that. That's points. And if you're gonna throw so short, somebody's got to make some explosive plays. Somebody's got to get more. They had one play over 20 yards.
It's true. Now, they preach all week, Michael, to Dylan, patience.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient against this defense because they were playing safeties high, right? I mean, they were putting 3 guys at times back. They all week, that's what they told him, patience.
Sure.
So I think he was just sort of doing what the coaches asked him to do. And now, how's that going to look going forward? Are other teams just going to do this to take away Isaiah Hunter and Ja'Cory Barney's speed, I guess, key to a certain extent? Not let those guys, not let Dylan's arm beat you with long throws. It's what I would do against Nebraska because I don't think they have a running back that can gas you. I mean, not like some of the guys I saw yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, I don't like to have this conversation because I respect Emmett, particularly his toughness. But there's got to be more than one, and you got to look at Emmett like you got to look at it, which is he's good, not great. And I know I'm going to get hammered for that, but that's just true. It is just the truth. They loaded him up the other night. He got 4.3 a carry. That's good. It's good, but he can't carry a team. He's not that kind of back.
Yeah, I think he only has in his career. So he has that one against UTEP that was like 40-something, and he has that one against Purdue for the touchdown. It was like 20-something. He just doesn't have those. But you know what? If you block him to get 4, he gets 6. He falls forward, so that's
tougher than hell.
Yeah, he's tougher than hell.
I don't like my comments coming off as criticism on him because he's so tough. He gives you everything.
Yeah.
He gives you everything he has.
Sure.
And he does fall forward, and he fights for yards. There's just some limitations there.
Yeah. Last 2 things, Sip. One, so who do you start at left tackle? I think it's pretty obvious after watching the tape, but who do you start at left tackle?
I lean towards Pritchett.
Really? He can't pass block.
Well, I haven't looked at the tape.
Yeah, you need to go back in. He got bull rushed 2 or 3 times. He got one-armed. He got ragdolled a little bit in the one armor. Guy grabbed him by the shoulder and just moved him out of the way.
He graded the best out of those.
What do you grade on pass blocking?
He graded on pass block 69.3. And Corcoran graded 50.6 and Gunner 58.6.
Okay.
So measurably better pass grade on PFF. And he graded measurably better overall than either Corcoran or Gatula. It would be either Pritchett or Gatula.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do it. It was amazing to see 3. I don't know that I've ever seen a straight 3 rotation where one guy
crazy.
got 33 snaps, Pritchett, one guy got 26, Corcoran, and one guy got 23, Gatula. So just pretty much a straight, we're just gonna rotate them, give them all fairly equal snaps. I don't know that I've ever seen that at left tackle.
Yeah, it's strange because when you look at just watching them individually, and by the way, the jump off sides, it wouldn't have mattered. They were illegally formationed anyway. So you had a penalty anyway, no matter what. But it's just weird that when Matt Rule mentioned something, he's not just throwing it out there. It's happening. And he mentioned the fact that he's jumping off sides, and he jumps off sides.
I know. It was amazing. Rule, if you recall during that spiel, 10 days ago, whatever it was, he emphasized it. He laid it out in clear terms. Pritchett's problem isn't off-field stuff, maybe some of the stuff you hear you're hearing like rumors. He says it's false start.
Yes.
It's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So not missed assignments, blocking the wrong guy. It's that. And I know it's not talent. He's got a world of talent, Michael. He's got a world of talent.
Ifs and buts are candy and nuts, but obviously they come out in the second half and they score on that drive and they go up 17. It's a completely different game. You're playing your backup running backs more. It's a completely different look if you finish that drive.
Oh, it's hugely disappointing because at halftime you felt really good. Nebraska was dominating statistics. The defense had forced 2 straight 3-and-outs, and then Shavers came up with that hit and forced a turnover.
Yeah.
So you felt good about the defense. And then, you thought, okay, Nebraska gets the ball here. Let's see them go up 20-3. And no, it didn't work out. I mean, you're right on that 4th and 2 at Cincinnati's 43. Dillon nearly got picked.
Yeah, he's got to make that throw to Key real quick. I still think that there's something about over the middle of the field where I don't know if he sees the field as well as he does outside the numbers.
But that first series wasn't very good. I mean, it just so that was disappointing. I thought at halftime, all right, they get the ball. Let's see it. They got some momentum.
Yep.
Then it just didn't work out. There was a couple times I thought at 20-10, Nebraska just one more score and it's over. They just couldn't come up with it.
Yeah, no doubt. Last thing, real quick. And I know you don't like to speculate things, but can you see another team, another college fan base doing what Nebraska's fans did? Some 70,000 people doing what they did.
Yeah, there's a couple, but not many. I always use West Virginia. West Virginia travels really well. That's a fervent fan base. There's some others that if they were close by like that, but God, 70,000 people, man, I don't know. That was quite a takeover. It was quite a scene. What I learned from it is if they do it again, it's rough. It's a rough trip for people. I mean, it's like.
Well, hopefully they'll have all those bridges done. I mean, they're doing that bridge project. So once that bridge project is done, we're not going to lose those 40 minutes, inside and outside of St. Joe's. That was the tough part, man.
Yeah, it was a fist fight for people. So getting down.
Yeah.
But it's fun. God, I love this. I mean, I love the stadium. I love the press box.
Yeah.
It was a great, great show.
And they won. And they won, Sip.
Yeah, it's a huge win. I mean, it's just a gigantic win. But, now it's the evolving tale, right? Let's see there's some things they got to do against Akron. And, for one, you got to get Mekhi Nelson going.
Yeah.
You got to get him going. I don't know if this is a pass blocking discussion or what, but there's some things now you go into that game where maybe try to get a defensive lineman like head shot, a lot of snaps, get him 15 to 18 snaps. Maybe you start playing Van Poppel more than Jude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think. That's sort of an obvious.
Yeah, Van Poppel struggled early. I think that's what happened. He got blown off the ball a couple times, and I think the second drive, and I think that's why for a while he didn't come back in. I think he got too high a couple times. I think that's what ended up happening based off of what I watched.
Well, I think that could
but then he got better in the second half.
I think that was an issue in camp a little bit, which is why he's number 2.
Sure.
So they don't have a Corleone on Nebraska's roster.
No.
They just don't. So they got to work around it. And that discussion will continue to evolve.
Sip, we appreciate it. Remember, the team they play next week is nicknamed the Zips. That's how much they scored. Zip.
Zip against Wyoming, which was a sub-500 team in 2024. That's not a good sign for the Zips.
Not a good sign for the Zips. Sip, thank you very much. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Stephen M. Sipple. We'll take a quick break because we're way over. Of course, Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally and answer the phone on the first ring. And Nebraska Medicine, join our team, nebraskamed.com/careers. Back with more Severe Reaction. We'll go over our keys and how Nebraska did when we come back here on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
This will be a 51-yarder. Does not have a make from 50-plus in his career. Coming over from Charlotte, spent the spring at Cal. Camden Cook to hold. Ball be spotted down inside the right hash. Snap back, hold is down. The right-footed boot, end over end, has plenty of leg. It is good. Right down center. Kyle Kunet with a big hit from deep. 51 away, ties the game at 3.
Kind of cool to be a Husker right now, and so playing at Arrowhead, I thought it was awesome. But I think at first, like early on, like Snow was on the headset, like, man, we're not running great angles. The first couple drives on defense were like, I think you got to play a game. You really do. You got to play, and so I think we'll learn from it. But I just like the fact that the guys, like, they weren't yelling at each other, they weren't snapping. They were just like, hey, this is a football game, and we're crazy if we think Cincinnati's not going to come in here. I told everybody, I told them, hey, these guys get up early. Now the thing that they did was, we'll have to adjust to the tempo. Great thing is the Big Ten's not necessarily a tempo league, but I do think the tempo got us, and we'll have to adjust to that as we kind of move forward.
All right, I got it. I heard it. I got it. I know who Kyle Crooks sounds like. I know now. I heard it just now. It's a young Sean McDonough. That's who it is. It's a young, as Sean's gotten older, his voice is, like we all do, gotten a little more tired. But a young Sean McDonough. It's Kyle Crooks. It was right there. I kept hearing it.
You'll get to hear Sean McDonough tonight.
Tonight? Which game is he doing? Which one?
Notre Dame, Miami.
Oh, okay. All right. I like Sean McDonough's great.
Yeah,
he's great.
Match him up with Kyle Crooks.
Maybe we could do like a comparison.
Yeah.
Like, who is this? Is it Sean McDonough or is it Kyle Crooks? We play games with that.
Yeah, that could be a good 16-20 the game.
That could be a good game. Yeah. I heard it. That was that one. When I was listening to the game, as I'm watching the game, I kept every now and then I'd be like, wow, it sounds like somebody. Certain words. And that happens because if you're going to pattern yourself after a play-by-play guy, hell, Sean McDonough, other than squeaky voice at times, other than that, I mean, very few guys are as good as giving the down and distance, taking you right up to the dramatic part of the play and allowing the sound to do the work. And he's very good at it. So, and he's got some of the greatest calls in the history of sports, So, yeah. Sean McDonough's not bad. That'd be a good game to play. I'll bring that up. So game keys. My first key going into the game was simply keep Sorsby in the pocket. He had two big strengths basically the last 2 years when he's played. He's very good play action wise. Matter of fact, he was one of the best in the Big Ten last year. And then obviously getting outside the pocket, making plays with his legs. He was an 80 PFF grade, which you don't see a lot in terms of his rushing grade last year. So we know how good he was. 13 rushes, 96 yards, 2 TDs, 56 of those 96 were in the fourth quarter. So I would say no in terms of the keys for the first one. The second one, I went over the kind of the stats matchup, and the one that stood out to you was Cincinnati wasn't great in special teams last year, but they were middling, and Nebraska was bad. So Nebraska needed to at least break even, if not win the special teams battle. I would love to have seen a net punt differential and kickoff differential that, 35, 40 yards. It's been great. You don't get that as much anymore because most of the kickoffs go in the end zone. But 2 for 2 from field goals, 1 a 52-yarder. Archie Wilson had some short fields to kick from. This is going back to how Nebraska had a bunch of successful drives, but only scored 20 points. He had 4 punts for 36.8 yards, but he had 2 inside the 10, another one, I think, about the 14-yard line as well. So successful. And in the end, after having to battle back all day in field position, starting field position, Nebraska ended up winning 29-yard line to the 25-yard line, which is crazy because at one point it was like 31 to like 19, and they battled all the way back from that. So I would say special teams wise, pretty good. Winning the battle there at special teams. the Cincinnati punter had some longer punts, but they had longer fields to kick off as well. Remember, only 3 times did they actually cross the 50 against Nebraska, when you don't count, those kind of drives that would be like the one at the end of the half where they only had the ball, one time, one play. Anyway, the third one is get your ball to your playmakers. I said Barney, Emmett, Key, and Harburg is what I was looking for, because opening the tackling grade last year wasn't great for Cincinnati. I thought you get him in the open field. Pretty good job. 24 touches through the air for Key, Hunter, Johnson, and Barney. Pretty good. And made a lot of plays, just didn't have a lot of explosive plays, which is always a big concern whenever you can't throw the ball down the field. You like to see guys break some tackles and make some plays. But overall, that Key, I think, was pretty successful. Let's go to the man that makes the show possible. Joining us here on 1620 The Zone, Old Man Doug. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. Thanks for doing the show. You do a great job.
You're not calling. You're only calling because it's raining, right? You can't be out playing golf.
Actually, my wife has a family reunion today, so.
Oh, okay.
But I'm kind of chuckling at my golfing friends if they're out there, so they're probably not listening. But anyway, I don't. I think, as Sip said, that big 12 coach says Cincinnati's better than you think.
Yeah.
Obviously there were a lot of, but every game there's those missed opportunities or what have you. I was really impressed with the 2 new receivers. I mean, we didn't have any drop passes. I thought Dylan's accuracy was really good, but it was the short passes, obviously, but they were fairly tight windows. And then, the play that really, probably the play of the game, in my opinion, was the 4th on the goal line when they made it, with a pass. That was gutsy. And you wonder what would have happened had they not got that. But they did.
Yeah.
And the kickers did well. The only thing, and I've complained about this, probably the only bad part about is we just don't block people on the kickoff returns. I don't. And
kickoff return or punt
thinking,
return? Which one?
No, kickoff return.
Okay.
And the gunners on the I felt like last year I haven't rewatched the game, so I probably could go back to it, but we just don't. It's weird. We don't block anybody, and our gunners are always bad on the punt returns. I was glad to see that at least he tried to return some of those, Ja'Cory.
Sure.
And maybe the strategy is go more for a block, so they have to commit more players. So then if he can make that first guy miss, he's got quite a bit. But I think I'm confident that Eckler, it was so much better. The snaps were good.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to make the long kick, and he did. So, we can bitch about the little things, but until we get back to winning the games we're supposed to win, like this one, and not losing them like this one, then I don't know if maybe we complain next year a little bit on a game like this. But I think it's an 8 or 9 win team, and it could get a lot better. There were some bad angles taken on defense. The one that really stuck out to me was the reverse when McGahee.
Yeah.
And I had to Google. I didn't know I forgot who 17 was, but I mean, I don't even understand, even if the ball was on the right side, what he was going to do with the angle he took.
I don't know.
But it was one play, but if he'd have stayed home, he would have turned that thing in and it would have been nothing. And and lastly, I do think Nebraska probably didn't show everything today, and they felt they could win the game and not show a lot. They're not going to have to show as much as Michigan's going to have to show next week against Oklahoma. Is it
Oklahoma?
And so we should see. But yeah, that quarterback from Michigan looked awfully good. I mean, I thought, again, they weren't playing a super tough team, but Nevada's not Houston Christian. I mean, that game is a joke. I'm glad I'm going to be out of town for that one. I may not even watch the replay. I hope they the only positive could be building some depth, getting some guys in there to play, getting their feet wet. So, but anyway, you do a great job. I love your professionalism. I always enjoy listening to you, whether you're on Big Red Wrap Up or coming on the 1620. So thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. Thanks, man. It's nice to say. Speaking of that, by the way, Michigan, Oklahoma is a 4.5-point favorite. We were talking about that in the offseason about that game. And I was telling people, I think Oklahoma is going to be, I thought maybe like 6-point, closer to a touchdown favorite. And people are like, you're crazy. Like, no, it's sitting at 4.5. It opened there. And we'll see what ends up happening in the number. But I don't know, man. I mean, I think Oklahoma's going to be pretty good. And Michigan didn't play poorly yesterday. They actually got the game. The reason why the game was so close, if you didn't watch it, really good job with trick plays. They had 3 trick plays that were really good trick plays. And I'm sure they planned them all off season and they got Michigan, but they weren't overly impressive. It wasn't something that would certainly scare you. They're certainly going to probably be able to run the ball. Iowa was interesting, man. Iowa just they got away from they struggled throwing the ball early and just went, no more of this, and lost the guy that was projected to be their starting running back. And the next 2 running backs, along with the quarterback, rushed for over 300 yards. That was a strange game to watch. I'm not showing a lot. Just lined up and just ran the ball very well. We'll take a break. We come back, get caught up on our breaks. Also have the Akron preview coming up for you as well. And your phone calls, 402-951-1620. You're on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Six-3 Huskers. Minute 10, second quarter. Left hash snap to Sorsby. Drifts back to throw. Dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch. Got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete. They say the process of the catch was not complete as Vincent Shavers with a big bouldering impact over the middle.
That's why they call that guy V9. That looked like a catch. They may take another look at this one. That's a football move. He's completed control.
After review, the ruling on the field has changed. It is a completed pass for the fumble recovered by Nebraska. It will be first and 10 Nebraska at the 24-yard line.
And we nailed the yard line. How about that?
All season, all the adversity we went through, man, the matros, the winter workouts, everything we've been through. I had so much faith in them. I was actually smiling on the sideline on that last drive because I knew those 5 senior DBs, man, and just that whole group on defense plays hard. They play to the end, and everybody said we can't finish games, and you see that's what we did tonight. Hey, man, if y'all don't know, Malcolm's like a brother from another mother to me, man. We grew up. We got here at the same time, freshman year. I told him on that last drive, I said, go make a play, man. It's your moment, go make a play. And he's just doing what he was trained to do. He makes big plays in practice, and that's what he did tonight.
Welcome back to Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. In the YouTube chat, Andrew says, not having a backup running back will be a bigger issue this season. Should have paid Dowdell or Shamar Brown. A Beringer fan says, fact is, when it comes to passing, Michigan and Indiana's quarterbacks weren't exactly impressive. I thought Bryce Underwood made a couple of really nice outside the number throws. He missed a couple. It was high. Every time I watched the Indiana game, they were just running the ball. They were just running the ball. And I like Mendoza. I think he can be very good. But every time I flipped over, they were just running the ball. Patrick says, hi, Sip. Remember talking to you in the airport leaving Michigan after they blew us out? Doesn't sound like a very happy memory. Hokey Husker says, Judy got absolutely destroyed. There was a play where he got bulldozed 15 yards down the field. JB says, Cincinnati's offensive line deserves some credit. They do. I completely agree. Great riff. Something. It's not an age thing. It's a personality thing. I don't know. I understand what you're saying. It's a personality thing. But based off of my 2 sons and some of the other young people I'm around, they just feel there was a sense of urgency I had as a child because of fear of a lot of things. My mother, neighbors, just fear. Like I always was in a hurry to get stuff done because I was afraid that I was going to pay for it if I didn't. I don't feel there's that same fear. And I'm not saying that you need to raise kids with fear or whatever, but that fear is a driving factor. And it doesn't feel like that some of the young people you meet have that same desperation of fear. I've said this before. If I got sent to the pantry to go find something and I couldn't find it, and my mom told me where it was, I wasn't going back to her. I was going to stand there until I found it. There was no way.
I can relate to that.
No way. I was going back. I sent my kid to get, he said, where's the toilet paper? I go, it's in the laundry room right next to the sink. He comes back 2 minutes later. He goes, I don't think it's in there. So I'm thinking, oh, somebody must have moved it. So he leaves. I walk in there. It's right there. There's no way I would have come back to my mother and said, oh, yeah, I didn't find it.
Usually what I would do is just Google what it looked like. Then I'll just
didn't look more.
Refer
there was
to what I find.
There was no Google for us to be able to look. I just stayed, man. There's a certain amount of just fear that we were raised with. Also, by the way, you could get lost when I was growing up, and there was no looking up where you are. No. There was no GPS. Nope. You had to be attentive on everything to know where you were. Again, maybe it's not an age thing. Maybe it's not a generational thing. It just feels that way to me. Mm-hmm. It feels like a generational thing to me. Alacrity is the word I use. I want more alacrity from young Dylan. And maybe you don't get that. Maybe that's just the way he plays. That's the way he was raised. Maybe that's just the way he watched other quarterbacks around him play. There are quarterbacks in the league that play that way, that play with extreme passion every single play. They are. I mean, Josh Allen is one of them. Plays that way, Then on the other hand, you got Aaron Rodgers, who has always kind of like played real loose and did things like it was real easy. There's both kinds out there. I just want the one that plays like their hair is on fire. Or there's a chance their hair might be on fire. And if they don't do something, they're going to get burned up. Fear, baby. Fear.
Gotta love the fear.
I like fear, but we can't do that anymore. It's not a part of raising children anymore. We will take a break. When we come back, we got the Akron preview still coming up, and we're going to look at those numbers and see where Nebraska is through game 1 here on Severe Reaction on 1620 Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
I thought the offense did a really nice job. Obviously they went down, they took the 10-point lead. And then that drive, we had a great drive going to that one, just that one play, But even then, we made them use their timeouts. I had them in the 4th and 5, had the penalty. Great call by John. That quarterback eluded us. We had, every time we got close to some pressure, he was able to make a play with his feet. And really, even that long drive. There's 2 drives in a row. They went tempo. They didn't really throw a ball. Went the ball in the flat, but great call by John. He brought the simulated pressure, went to cover 2. They took a shot at the hole. I just saw the guy running wide open, and all of a sudden Malcolm shows up, and so Malcolm Hartzog does. He doesn't talk a lot. He just makes plays, and happy to see him have a chance to make a play. That was a nice call by John.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, but I just don't understand what Scott Satterfield was thinking about at the end of the first half. You're sitting there at 6-3. You've been completely outplayed. And I'm getting out of there. At least me. I'm trying to get out there. I'm pinned back, I think on my 8 or 9. And I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here because they're getting the ball to start the second half. I don't want them to be able to double up on me. I don't want them to get the big win in terms of middle 8. And I just did not understand his decision. But, you make those decisions, and in a way, you could say, I bet you there's Bearcat fans that think that cost them the game. That mistake at the end of the first half, instead of going to half 6-3, you go down 13-3. I don't know. It's just I look at what, and I know a lot of people critical of Matt Rule for going forward on 4th and 2. I don't understand you, because you want them to be aggressive. You want them to put them away. It should have been converted. They should have converted that and went on to score and be up 17. That game is essentially over. But you draw up plays to work. They don't always work. But I'd rather you go for it there on 4th and 2. You're like, well, you got this punter. You should have pinned him back. Yeah, that's one way to think about it. But at that moment were you thinking that? Before you knew it wasn't going to work, you were really thinking, 4th and 2, we've been moving the ball on these guys. We have a chance to put this game out of reach. Let's just punt it. I can't imagine that's what you were thinking. But there were people upset about it. Upset about that decision. I didn't have a problem with it. And the one play that if I look back, Nebraska was moving the ball in that final drive, trying to kill the clock, and they were doing a great job doing it. They ran that inside handoff to Barney. And remember, they got beat on the little shovel earlier, the opposite direction. They were ready for that. And that was a -2. So now you're off schedule. You try to pass the ball. You don't want to stop the clock. So Dylan takes the sack. Now you're at 3rd and 17. You're not going to get the first down. You either run a draw or you throw a short pass, and you got to give it back to them. I thought they were in a great rhythm, giving the ball to Emmett, throwing some short passes. They try to run that inside handoff on the motion. That was disappointed in that call. I just didn't think it was necessary. I thought Hogerson got in his bag a little bit too much with that one, and that was a mistake. We got to take a final break because we got behind with Sip. We'll do that. We'll come back, give you the Akron preview, and looking ahead to next week here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
We make the biggest jump from week 1 to week 2. I think when our guys start putting like these labels on things is when we get in trouble. I mean, we beat Rutgers last year in a close game, but then we lost it. We just got to get better every week. We've made a commitment as a team to each other and a commitment to improving throughout the course of the year. I just like the demeanor on the sideline. I like the demeanor in the locker room. So, again, I think every time we go out to compete and we win the football game, great. We'll just have to look at the things we have to do better. But I love seeing guys fight. So we'll try to build off that.
Welcome back. Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. Wrapping it up. Yep. Week 1 to week 2. Nebraska's probably get a whole bunch of people into the game. Hopefully they're playing Akron, as I mentioned. Akron comes in 0-1. Their head coach is Joe Moorhead, who I like as an offensive coordinator, had success at a couple different places, including Oregon and, of course, Penn State. It was a mess for Akron. They only had 228 total yards against a Wyoming team that's not good. They finished 3 of 15 on third down. They played okay defensively. They forced the interception. Wyoming got in the red zone twice. They gave a field goal one time, and then they give a 35-yard touchdown pass late in the fourth quarter to get the cover. Their quarterback, Ben Finley, was 16 of 38 for 139 yards. He had 1 interception. The highlight of the game for Akron was their punter, Joseph Castle. 6 punts, averaged 49.5 yards, and pinned the Cowboys inside their own 23 times. Their Amazing. MVP was their punter. The punter MVP. But nothing else worked well for them. This really struggled. Yeah, poor Akron. And, of course, it's a revenge game for Nebraska because that was the rain out, storm out, and they wanted Akron to stay around and play the next day, which would have been crazy, but they did, and Akron said no, and they left. And so Nebraska gets to have some revenge next week at 6:30. Hey, I want to say props to 1620 The Zone and everybody that was a part of Big Red Week and going down there and, having like a 7-hour pregame show and everybody back here, Joey and all the producers. And then after the game, doing their best to have Big Red Overreaction where the delay was so bad that you really couldn't answer any questions. And then Friday, bunch of shows again, wrapping the game up, going over it. Heck of a performance by the folks from NRG Media and 1620 The Zone. Great job by John and Josh and Connor and Josh and the morning show, Matt and Gary and all the producers. It was a great job by all of them getting that done, taking care of business. We're back here next Sunday, 8 o'clock a.m. for Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
What you need to know.
In college football on Saturday night, number 9 LSU won at 4th-ranked Clemson 17-10. Clemson led 10-3 at halftime, but LSU outscored them 14-0 in the second half. Number 11 Arizona State over Northern